You're listening to the Money Monopolizers podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. It's about time that we invest more in our financial literacy and work towards building generational wealth. If you think you're ready to do the same, then you've come to the right place. Alex, Marlon, y'all ready? Let's get this bread.
What's good, everybody? It's Alex Kamui here. We are back with episode 106 of the Money Monopolizers podcast, and I am here with my co-host, Marlon Walls. Marlon, how you doing today, bro?
Excellent, man. I'm super excited for what we're doing right now, man. I feel like this is really telling a story in all of itself because y'all seen where we've been at in studios before. Now you see that if you're watching on YouTube, you see the studio setup is a little bit different right now.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing a progression. On YouTube. Yeah, y'all should definitely check us out on YouTube because you're seeing the transformation. Like y'all going on this journey, and y'all finna see where we end up at. So what you're seeing right now is that we're actually not even in Houston right now. We're in Dallas. So we're here for like an event going on. So a big shout out to Black Web Renaissance for putting on the event, but I just want to talk about I guess you asked how am I doing today, right?
it's I feel like we start the show the same way. I say how you doing,
and I go on a rant,
and you talk about the journey. I noticed that in like the last 4 episodes. Yeah. Like, you know what, man? The journey, man. The journey.
You ain't lying. How am I doing? I'm doing good, man. Let me just start there. I'm doing good. Had a few issues this week with the tenant. Actually, with just the house in general. The tenant's been great that I got moved into the house. We had some plumbing issues, but that's all been handled now. It just keeps on. I feel like I'm about to replumb the whole house at this point. I'm sick of this place, but it's still doing what it served to do. Like understand that when you get into a real estate investment or anything like that, you have the possibility of things happening. I know we both had those experiences, so that's part of it though. But I'm doing all right, man. How about you?
Man, that's just a part of it, man. I mean, getting into real estate, that's what we were talking about last time. I feel like it's literally like an initiation. You had to get cooked on your first few properties.
You have to?
Ask Gene Marshall. Ask Eugene.
Oh, Lord. That story he told.
Yeah. But no, man, I'm doing good. Happy to be here out in Dallas. Yeah, as you can see, man, we are in a different studio, which if you're not watching on YouTube, you should definitely be watching on YouTube. But before we even get into that, I really need y'all to go and leave a review for the podcast on Apple Podcasts. We are now a top, depending on the day, 100 podcasts. So it's the podcast has been growing. We've got now a ton of new listeners, and that's why we're deciding to continue to reinvest back into the show, back into the production, back into the quality. And so in order for us to continue to go, we need y'all to go boost our egos by leaving reviews. That's on the Apple Podcast, because when I see those reviews and I read them, I'm like, yes, I clap for myself. I clap for us.
Boy, been motivated ever since.
Hey man, I would be sitting here lying to y'all if I said that I wasn't motivated by that kind of stuff. So I mean, it's just how I am. I'm just wired that way. It is what it is. I like winning and seeing a lot of reviews. It's like, yo, we winning. So I need y'all to go leave those reviews. If you enjoy the show, if you don't enjoy the show, don't go leave a review. But if you enjoy the show, then go leave a review, man. But we got really for this episode. So what we're gonna do really with the show now is we're gonna again take it to the next level. We're about to introduce a new format to the show, a kind of radio theme format, because we want to make sure that our show is unique and is different from everybody else's. Because there's a lot of people that do podcasts. They do podcasts the same way. You got the intro, get a guest interview, and that's it. So which is nothing wrong with that, but I think it's better if we can provide a more unique experience for listeners, because otherwise, why should they listen to us versus other people? I mean, we have obviously a ton of knowledge on what we talk about, and we have a lot of insight in it, so that's one reason. But on top of that, if we can provide a better experience, then it's always a plus then. And so what we want to really do now is kind of segment the show into like different segments. So typically what we'll do now is we'll have our intro, and this is probably the first and last time I'm ever gonna just talk about this, but we'll have our intro, and then we'll do our greetings, whatever, and then
talk about the journey.
Marlon will talk about the journey, and then we'll transition from that into business updates.
Right.
Because remember, this show was always a journey. We're taking from day one, May 2019, when we released episode 1, it was always to take y'all on the journey with us to financial freedom. We took y'all to level 1. Now we're taking y'all to level 2. And a lot of that is you're going to see that through the business. So we're going to get to level 2 through our businesses and through that kind of stuff. So in order so we can be more transparent with the things that are going on in business, we just want to dedicate some time to actually talking about what's going on in our businesses as far as, I don't know if Marlon wants to let y'all count his pockets. I mean, I always let y'all count my pockets. I don't know if Marlon's up to letting y'all count his pockets, then he could do that. But we'll just give you updates as to what's going on in the business, and also things we're struggling with, things that that's annoying us in the business, because that's real. We keep it real here. Marlon just told y'all he's finna have to replumb.
Yeah,
he feels like he's gonna have to replumb his whole house just with the. Tenant just moved in, you got issues already. So there's so many day-to-day behind the scenes things that happen in business. I think there's so many lessons just that we deal with as we learn and we go on a journey that we can share with y'all. So there's so much that we're gonna get from that. And from there, we're gonna get, after we talk about our business updates, we'll get, if we have a guest that episode, we'll get into the guest. So yeah. And then obviously we'll have our interview. This may compress the interview lengths a little bit slightly, but we got to do what you got to do, which is fine. We'll still figure out how to get the most value out of those conversations, and then we'll wrap up the show with our guess game. Obviously, the Fast 5 that we usually do. We might change the game up, whatever the case may be. We'll figure that out, and then we'll transition into listener questions. Anything that people have asked us about recently, any specific questions. This is also going to give y'all opportunity to ask specific questions that you want answered on the podcast. You can DM us at Money Monopolizers on Instagram, DM us personally, whatever, schedule a consult, whatever you want to do. And we can answer your questions directly live on the podcast. And we'll even shout you out too, maybe. And let's see, from there, it's some other things we're tweaking, but right now we're going to have sort of like, some financial freedom action items to kind of wrap up the show based off of what the topic was, things that y'all need to be implementing directly into your lives. And then we'll wrap up the show with our, final thoughts and our outro. So in theory, that show would be around, an hour?
I think it's like an hour and 15 minutes, somewhere around 15?
There. Yeah. In theory. Do I expect it to ever happen like that? Not
unless you have a timer clock right here sitting here like, hey, wrap it up.
Hey man, I already feel like we passed the time for greetings. So it's very unlikely that it's going to happen.
Did he say how he's doing? I don't feel like he said anything.
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing good, and that, I think that'll transition us. We can really get into the show now. As far as the business updates and stuff like that that we want to talk about, and that'll tell you how I'm doing.
So he's doing so based on business, not about you personally no more. It's all about the business tells me how I'm doing.
If the business is doing good, I'm doing good,
boy.
No, but on a serious note, I'm truly ecstatic. I'm so blessed, so grateful, man, just to be able to not have to work a job, be able to podcast and be able to just be financially independent, man. This week. This will transition us now. This week I had in my business, so we operate our business using a certain model as far as accounting, and I had my largest owner's draw this week.
Okay.
So it was nice to see your owner's draw for your week being higher than your
with the 9 to 5 used to
9 to 5 weekly paycheck, or it was bi-weekly, but like broken up. It's nice to start seeing that. Once you replace your income, cool. But now you start earning it.
Yes,
your income. That this week was my first check that was like actually higher than what I was getting from my job, and I was just like, yo, that's nuts.
Yeah, I mean that could be a whole topic in itself as far as like the way that we structure our business, as far as like the money that we're bringing in, because most people just run their business through their what's called their checkings account. Like they may open up a business, but they open up
They
a
have
checking
one
and a
account.
savings account. They may have like a couple hundred in the savings, but then all of their income and expenses go through that business.
Right.
We have a whole different strategy, which involves like 5 different accounts.
Yeah.
I don't even want to get into it. That could be a whole topic. We may save that for another day.
Yeah, we'll
actually.
get into it a different day.
But yes, that does help you structure your business as a business, and now you're able to see quantify your returns that you're making per week. Like you do. I think you do weekly paychecks, right?
Yeah, because I run payroll weekly.
Right.
So I have to base my business off of how frequently you run payroll, pretty much, or at least your accounting. But yeah, so that allows us to be able to structure our business and act and treat our business as a mature business from the very beginning. So now we're able to scale, and as we continue to scale, we can start bringing in shareholders, and we already have a structure to where they're able to be paid out. So that's kind of the premise around that. Right. So you should always have your owner's account where it's like that's where you get paid. So I've been seeing my owner account grow rather nicely. Even with being able to take vacations and stuff, and it still continue to grow. That is very, very, very good feeling. So. But yeah, as far as like the business itself for me, and then I'll let you get into yours. Business has been really good so far. Just I guess now we're wrapping up. Well, I guess this is the first episode we've done in October. So quarter 3 is now finished, and we're going into Q4 and Q3. I mean, I just saw today did $120,000 in revenue. So averaged around $40,000 a month in the cleaning business for revenue. So it was good, man. And I think quarter 2 I did was it maybe like 90,000 or 60,000. So to be able to increase 50% quarter over quarter is really nice. So October is looking really up. Hopefully it'll be my first $50,000 month. So it's been good. I think the biggest thing I'm just trying to really focus on now is scaling, but at the same time keeping my core values intact in terms of what I want the culture of the company to be. Because there's so many things when you're growing a business that we talked about this in the last episode too. Like Byron Holman, he talked about the culture and core values and stuff. And that's like, I'm starting to see it now, just in the sense of like, as you scale your business, a lot of that stuff can get lost because it's so far removed from you. Right. As you hire more people and that kind of stuff. But it really starts internally or at the top, and then it dissipates down to the lower level. So I have my operations manager. She's going to be becoming an employee in 2022, my first full-time employee. And so I'm going to, it's going to be a completely different business or ball game whenever you operating with an employee. So I don't know, there's so much that I want to get into with that, but it's a whole nother episode again, and I know we need to get
right down these topics, man.
It's so many things that we got to talk about. So but overall though, business is booming, and business it doesn't even necessarily mean it's booming because I'm making money and more money every month. It's booming because the things and the vision that I had is coming to fruition, in the sense of like my SOPs are working, my systems and my policies, all of them are working. You can see it all working in real time. That means even if you have a down month, but your systems are still working as they should, then that's totally fine then, and that shouldn't be that shouldn't be nothing to get down on. That should be nothing to get down on about myself. So yeah, that's how mine is doing though. What about you?
No, so the month of September was really an eye-opening one for me, and I would say that it's twofold though, because one thing I started doing in September is I really started buckling down on like the content I was putting out to show that I'm an authority in the space of the rental car industry. Yeah. So that way I was able to start attracting people who wanted to do business with us and also who wanted to learn from us. And so that kind of led me to like try to structure some type of course or some type of class where I'm able to teach people how to get into the rental car business. So that's kind of something that we implemented in September. It's like as far as like with actual systems and structure within it. And then on top of that, people are now reaching out to like do joint ventures with us. And I would think we've probably had over like 5 inquiries already about doing that. So yeah, it went from 1 back in the summer, but now it's really expanded a lot more. So I have like my vision for how 2021 is going to end and how 2022 is going to look is drastically more exponential than what it was before we got into this last quarter of the year. So now I see like the bigger vision for where our business can go and how much we can expand. So right now we're actually at 10 cars. We've purchased 12 in total. We've actually sold off one, and then we traded in another one. But now what we're trying to do now is not necessarily leveraging, but we're trying to start expanding our reach within the community. So instead of us continuously purchasing cars, we want to start partnering with other people more so. So now instead of us buying a car, we can help somebody else make passive income. So if anybody's listening, if anybody's looking to like partner, because we're based in Houston, so we run our business out of Houston. Somebody may not know how to necessarily run the rental car business, but what they can do instead is to partner with us, somebody who does know how. They may have a car that they don't drive. They may have a car that they that they just want that they don't use a lot, or just like an extra vehicle. They may even want to finance a vehicle and then have us run the business, or run it in our business. Those are different ways that people can get into the rental car industry without necessarily having to do the work. And so that's kind of what we're implementing now within our business. And right now, I would say that the actual business for us is still going good. We're not necessarily trying to continue to acquire cars ourselves though, because now we're restructuring and trying to make sure we have the systems in place to handle bringing in new clientele through like joint ventures. So I'm trying to make sure all the agreements are set up. So I'm kind of like, I guess, in a quiet zone as far as expanding the fleet for us personally. Yeah. And so that's allowing me to be able to take the time in order to, like I said, get the systems into place to be able to expand. So there's like it's a concept that you have to slow down to speed up. That's what I was just gonna say. Yeah. That's kind of the place that we're in right now, because I see the potential of where we can go. Yeah. And so instead of continuing full speed ahead with what we were doing, I'm taking a slow down and saying, let's reevaluate how the systems are in our business. Because if we start expanding to 20 cars, it can't just be me and my dad no more. Yeah. It's got to be, we got to have people that's able to work within our business. We have to have a company culture. All these things are going to come into fruition. So I'm seeing that before it happens, because what you don't want to happen is for your business to outgrow what you're ready for. And so that is where I'm at right now. That's why we're definitely we're at that slow down moment, because I'm seeing like what's to come. Yeah. And before we get there, I want to make sure everything is in place. So that's kind of what I've been doing for the past like a few weeks, especially after I left 9 to 5. Yeah. I've been big on that. Yeah.
And this was your first week full time as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so that's a whole story in itself, because now I had to truly see what it was like to have your full day to yourself, and you have to schedule everything out. Yeah. So what I ended up doing is I pretty much got a journal. And I said, I'm going to so I'm like, you sound big on the journey. Yeah. So I actually wrote in the very beginning, I said, this book is going to document my journey along the way as a full-time entrepreneur. And what I want to do every week is to outline every day, or I want to outline the goals for the week, and I'll separate them by an order of growth. So there's like the growth tasks that I'm gonna be doing. These are the ones that's gonna propel the company forward. That's to set up the SOPs. That's making sure that you have the joint venture agreements prepared for working with the clients.
That's work on your business stuff.
Right. That's the work on the business stuff. Then you have the work in the business stuff, such as go get this car cleaned, or make sure that the email marketing is going out. Make sure things like those are the detailed tasks that are not necessarily growing the business.
The stuff you delegate.
Correct. So I make sure I write those down for the week, and then every single day now I'm writing down what I'm trying to accomplish from that big list for the week. What I want to accomplish for the day, and now you start seeing patterns. Because what I started seeing is that I necessarily wouldn't finish everything every time, but you start seeing like which ones you're not finishing, and now you can start pointing out, why did I not do this one? And you start seeing that there may be a correlation between you naturally avoid certain tasks, such as you may avoid the work on the business especially if anybody's let's say technician turned business owner that's listening, you would definitely notice this. Like if you see an SOP task and say I need to write out another line item or another description for another position in my company for SOP, you're probably gonna notice that you skip that one more frequently. So that's showing you in your face that you're not doing this task, and you typically avoid it. Yeah. So now you can be more intentional about it. That's kind of what I learned for the past week.
Man, orders up. That's my new thing. Every time someone drop a bar, I'm gonna say orders up.
Okay.
That means ding ding, come get your food. It's
Okay,
ready.
gotcha.
So for the listeners, that was something that they could digest and eat on. Because that's real though. Because I think whenever the thing is, and we gotta transition soon, but the thing is that
You need the clock.
but as far as like, I think whenever we transition from the hardest thing, at least it was for me as well, transition from entrepreneurship to, I wish, transitioning from entrepreneurship to employee. Yeah, right. Imagine that.
I'm trying to make this transition, man.
I feel bad for that person. But anyways, transitioning from employee 9 to 5 to entrepreneur, the biggest thing is like now that you are in 100% control of your own time. So now you don't have anybody that's telling you what you need to do to be productive. It's now in your hands, which can be a lot to handle for a lot of people.
No doubt.
And I'm not gonna lie, it's very easy to get distracted. It's very easy to waste time. I've done it just in the sense since I've, but sometimes it's just like for me, it's like you gotta understand where it's like, I'm so used to like always doing something that like when I'm not doing something, I feel bad. Yeah. And I know that's not the right mentality, because number one, that was the whole reason I wanted financial freedom, so that I don't always have to be doing something.
Correct.
And then number two, like you understand that in business, like at least if you are delegating, you have systems and all these things in place, you shouldn't always have to be doing something. If you're not doing anything, you're actually doing things correctly. If your business is still running,
I heard this is probably a gem in itself. If you want to scale and like make more money, you need to do less work.
Oh, that's a fact. That's a fact.
And people cringe at that, like make more, like find a way to do less work, you'll make more money.
No, and that's real. I mean, just look anywhere you see. You can see the hierarchy. The thing is, the work is different. And to me, I think whenever you say like work less, it's in the sense of like you're not working harder. So when you're doing when you're at the top of the company and you have a substantial sized company, the work you're doing is not hard work.
It's not the physical labor.
Yes, it's smart work. So it's like, and you're not working all the time. So like you said, it's like I'm not working all the time, because I promise you, Jeff Bezos is not working all the time.
He never delivered that package to me, I promise you.
I promise he ain't. And maybe he is in a different way on different things, because I know he's got he has other ventures, Blue Origin. He's trying to go to space. He's trying to literally compete with SpaceX, which they're failing miserably, but they're trying. He's might be working on that. That's a whole nother venture, so that's a completely different thing. But like in your business, as you scale the business and you get more systems and more people in place, you should not be working as much. So yeah, that's something that it's just harder for me, because now that I had hired someone to like work, it was like obviously I wasn't doing as much, so but it was still weird for me, because it's like yo,
it's new. I mean, it's not like you've been doing this forever. It's still gonna be new, so it's gonna feel weird in the beginning.
Yeah, and it's
how you're supposed to do it, but
yeah, I don't know, sometimes I just need to figure out like, because it is hard sometimes to figure out like what exactly you need to be doing to grow the business, because it's no one telling you. It's all on you. If you decide not to do it, it's nobody's gonna tell you nothing. There's no repercussions, like at least directly. It'll be indirect, but it's no direct repercussion. So it's that is actually it's a good problem to have. Yeah. It's much better than solving someone else's problems and not getting paid for it. So anyways, again, another segment that went past time. It's all good. We
said about an hour 15 is gonna be an hour and 45. It's all good.
Yeah,
y'all rocking with us.
We'll get it right. As far as what we want to talk about today, I know you had something in mind just in regards to what we were talking about earlier, just in the sense of like, Actually, you can.
I do want to start that one off
Yeah.
because I want to preface why I said it too. So, like I mentioned earlier, I was talking about me buying that house and how I kept on having plumbing issues. And so, what I fear for a lot of people is that they will hear the stories that we tell about house hacking. They'll hear stories about us talking about business, and they would try to jump in as soon as they have enough money to do so. So, if they need a down payment for a house, and if they let's say they need $20,000 for a down payment and closing costs to move in. My fear is that somebody will get $20,001. They'll go buy the house, closing costs, and now they're trying to find somebody to move in and get the place rented out to make money.
Yeah.
Problem is that just because you get the house, and let's say you already did the renovations, you still have things that come up that you have no idea about. That's in business, that's in real estate investing, that's in everything. If you're in this field, you're naturally going to have something that comes up that you were not prepared for. That's why it's so important to have reserves in place. So that kind of made me start thinking about how do you know when it's the right time for you to leave your 9 to 5? Because I know for myself in my personal situation, I've made sure I had plenty of reserves in place. They may not be in my savings account, but I have reserves in different locations, whether it's in Bitcoin, whether it's in the stock market, whether it's in even a 401k when I was contributing to that. Now they contribute a lot. I have all those. I have money in different areas, so I can pull money away from those different areas if necessary in order to continue to fund my lifestyle for the next however many months. So my goal was to have at least 4 months of reserves before I even took that step out of my 9 to 5. Yeah. And there's multiple ways that you can be prepared for it though to make that exit from your 9 to 5. For me, I wanted to have so that's considered financial runway. Financial runway is pretty much saying how long can I live off of not having another paycheck, and that requires you having to go look at your monthly expenses, and then you have to break down how much are you spending per month. And if I extrapolate that over X amount of months, so let's say I spend $2,000 a month, and I want to, and I need 5 months of financial runway. That means I need $10,000 saved up somewhere in order to live off of for 5 months without getting another paycheck. Yeah, you need that on top of the down payment. Most people are just looking at the down payment and the closing costs of the house and saying that's all I need. And that's why I said that's one of my biggest fears, because I said I'm very fortunate to be in my situation where I knew that ahead of time. Because now all these plumbing expenses, it's just I just say I'm paying it to the game. Yeah. Like it's part of it. Charge to the game. There you go. It's part of it. But like I said, that's the whole premise of the conversation topic that I wanted to say is like, how do you know that you're ready? Because a lot of people, I don't think they are eager, but they're not ready. Yeah. And I wanted to make that distinction.
I love this because I think where do I even want to start with this? So for me, just in the sense of like, okay, because it's different for every business, and like with real estate, like man, because I have so many different experiences just in all the business I've done that like man, I'm just thinking like if I didn't have some access to capital in some way, oh my gosh. Like in real estate, for example, and this isn't, by the way, preface, like you said, this is not to like scare nobody. This is to alert you to the reality of what is going to happen once you. This is not if it happens; it is when it happens. Exactly. When you get into real estate, when you get into business, there will be expenses that will come up. And for me, whenever we got into real estate, we bought our first house hack, 2018. For those that don't know, a house hack is a property where you buy a multifamily house or a multi-bedroom house, and you live in one unit and you rent out the other units, or you occupy one bedroom and you rent out the other bedroom so that you can live for free or really cheap. So this is what we did when we were 21 years old. This is how we got into real estate investing. This is how we recommend everyone get into real estate investing. You only need a very low down payment of 3 to 5%, depending on the loan that you get. So it's and I know some people, if you live in Cali or New York, it's like, dang, that's still $80 million, right? 3% of the purchase price. So, but here in Texas, things are relatively cheap. And so, it's pretty easy. Like, dude, my first property was 100. It was the duplex or the single family with the garage apartment for $155,000. 3% of that was like, bro, it was like $6,000 something dollars. So I was like, cool, we saved that easily. In fact, we saved that in about
a few months time.
3
I think
months.
It was like 3 to 5 months, maybe.
Because we was putting away a majority of checks for that. during when we was working on slave jobs. And so so whenever we finally did get that, it was like, cool, we can go buy the property. But fortunately, ignorance is bliss, and at that time, it wasn't. This was 2018, so the market was still hot. So it's like it wasn't very easy to just go get a property. Like you couldn't just because you had the money don't mean the property was available.
Right.
You still had to keep looking. And during this time, we were still putting money away while we were still looking, because like, what you gonna go spend the money on? So we still putting the money away. Property. You eventually find the property. Cool. You got money now for the down payment, closing costs, whatever. You save that up. You got some money for the renovations you might want to do. You save that up. What I didn't expect was to get into this property and to have $2,000 panel electrical panel replacement in the first month living there. Didn't expect that to happen. In fact, before that, it was like, there were so many different things that actually even happened before that. I remember even the washer and dryer literally flooded one of the bedrooms. Had to leave work.
I forgot about that, bro. That's bringing back flashbacks. I remember these stories we was going through.
The washer, there was a leak or something, and it exploded in the wall. I'm embellishing, but it like was leaking, drenched the entire carpet. Had to leave work in the middle of work, go buy a fan, dry out my carpet, get the wall fixed, all this stuff. I'm getting back to work at 6 o'clock. They like, where you been? I'm like, yo, I had to get this fixed. And I had to end up working late and make up the time. It was a whole bunch of stupid stuff. And like, the biggest thing is that if I didn't have the money put away for those things, what was going to happen? I had tenants in the property.
Exactly.
You got to understand, when you get into real estate, your tenant doesn't care about your personal financial situation.
They're not even thinking like that. They're not thinking you come out your own pocket. They like, you're a company to them.
Exactly.
You're part of a company at least.
Exactly. It's a consumer mindset. A consumer doesn't look at a business or anywhere that they're obliged to pay any money. They don't look at you like a person. It doesn't matter if you're just a mom and pop landlord. It doesn't matter. They don't look at you like
almost
that.
Like an infinite well of money to them.
Exactly. So you got to understand, when you get into real estate investing, especially buying whole real estate, if you were you cannot be a paycheck to paycheck landlord, because your tenants, if they have an issue, they need things to get fixed immediately. They do not care if you don't have the money. They just need the problem to be fixed. And I'm not mad at it. I mean, that's the agreement. They said they was gonna pay you. You said you was gonna give them a place to live that accommodates them. So you have to be able to fulfill that agreement. And that's just the reality of the matter. Literally, whenever I even earlier this year had my AC go out in the house. Actually, I got two things. Actually, you talk about expenses. I had my AC go out in the house. This is that same house.
Yep.
That had the electrical problems. This is now this year, so it's 3 years later. Had a guy come check it out. He did something, whatever, some work. About I think it was like $500 or something. Cool. 2 days later, goes out again. This is, by the way, in the summer in Texas, where you're getting cooked every day. My tenant is now calling me, hey, AC's out again. We need you to get this fixed now. It's hot. My daughters are in this house. This is what he's telling me. He's like, I have daughters in this house. They're hot. We have to leave the house. I'm like, oh shoot. I do need to get that fixed. I can't play around with this, because now that introduces a whole nother possibility of problems. So I need to get this fixed ASAP. Call the AC guy out again. He's like, hey man, God, I hate talking to these people. He's like, hey man, your system is cooked. Your system is fried. You need and he wasn't even trying to get me to run it down. Like I really trusted this guy. Maybe I'm naive, but I really trusted him, just in the sense of like he was telling me like what I needed to do based on some other conversation we had. And I had, long story short, I had to end up getting a brand new HVAC system.
Yep.
Do you know how much that cost? $11,000. $11,000 to get a brand new HVAC system. Now tell me this: if I'm a first time landlord, I get into this property, the AC goes out when I first move in. I use all my money on the down payment. What do I do?
My point.
Now, fortunately, and this is just, I didn't necessarily have to do this, but the thing about real estate and having ownership of the property is you have options. So I was able to, essentially what I did was I charged that back to the tenants or the tenants that are going to be living in the property, because what happens is I could finance it through the company and it'd be $150 a month. I put that. Guess how much the rent went up on this lease renewal?
Probably 200 knowing you.
Nah, I kept that 150.
Okay.
So it really should have been 200 though, because my property taxes did go up. So
point.
it should have been 200, but I didn't want to do them that bad because they renewed. So I was like, cool, just 150. So they end up paying for it. But the thing is, it's not always going to be like that. You got the whole premise is that you have to either have access to cash or you need to have access to credit.
Yep.
Some form of capital. Heck, even if you got to get a private loan to finance it, and then you figure it out on the back end, or you get life insurance, do all that whole thing. It's a whole nother thing. We're not gonna get to that. But that's the whole point of like, yo, your tenants don't care. Get it fixed. If you can't get it fixed, you might not be ready.
Yeah. To
get into the game.
And so that I thought twofold with that. First of all, yes, you do. It's great to have either the cash or credit, but and also on another spectrum, you just need to have a problem solver mindset. That's truly the entrepreneur part of it all. Yeah. Like, you just name different options, but most people are just in a panic mode. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm about to sell the house. Like, they're thinking along those lines. Yeah. So the fact that you're thinking of solutions like that in the first place just shows that you have the entrepreneur mentality of there's a problem and the solution has to be provided. It has to work or it has to work. Like, there is no other way. So that's a good part in itself. And like you said, the tenants, they don't really care what your financial situation is. They just know that they don't have AC in the house. Yeah. In my situation, this happened literally last night. Literally last night. So this week, the tenants had messaged me saying they actually put in a maintenance request saying that the plumbing was messed up because their toilet backed up, and it started like flooding the bathroom. And so they said they use all their tiles, like dry it up. I called the plumber. He stakes it out, and it's all good. It was like good to go after about an hour that he was there. Problem is that last night they said it happened again, but not just to one bathroom, but to two of them. So both bathrooms in the house now are backed up. They can't use the bathrooms. This is like at 8:30 at night. They had like company over too. So probably like 5-6 people in the house. Can't nobody use the bathroom from 8 p.m. until whenever the plumber gets here, right? What do you do? No, that's a question to everybody else. Like, what do you do in that situation? Because this does happen. And you have to, and you as the person that says I'm about to be the big bad landlord that's going to step out and buy my first rental property, you have to be ready for these situations. So I called a plumber. I called the plumber immediately, and let him know like the situation, because I probably talked to him. He's my best friend now. He on speed dial. Yeah. Like I talk to him so frequently, but I'm talking to him, and I'm letting him know the situation, and he's like, man, I feel for the tenants because of the fact that you don't want to be without a bathroom at night. So you know what he did? He came over last night at 9 p.m. He was over from 9 to 10 p.m. fixing the toilet. And what he found was it wasn't nothing major. It's like stoppage because of how long the house had been sitting vacant between the renovation that the previous owner did and then when I was doing my renovations and stuff. So that's kind of a part of the reason.
He's the owner?
No. I'm talking about sort of previous.
No, the plumber is the owner of the business.
Yeah, his business. He run. It's not. I wouldn't call it a business, but he's a self-employed guy that does really good plumbing work though. He is certified though.
We gotta get him the E-Myth.
As far as he don't run his business as a business, but he's great at doing work. He's a great technician turned business owner. I would say that, but he loves what he does though.
Yeah, that's real.
And. Long story short, though, I had the finances in order to be able to pay for it, and on multiple occasions because he's fixed 4 plumbing problems for me already, and that happened within the span of 2 weeks. So you have to be ready for that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And you never know what's going to come up. And so we have two totally different stories, but they happen all the time in real estate. And that's why the whole premise of the conversation was, are you ready?
Yeah.
You have to analyze your financial situation. Do you have enough cash flow coming in from your business? Like I was trying to say that earlier. There's two ways to know two ways to start quantifying if you're ready. One is having the cash flow coming in from your business. That's when your cash flow has replaced your 9-to-5 income before you even leave the job. So that means you're able to your owner's comp you were talking about. That has to be sufficient enough to pay for your lifestyle, your current present day lifestyle already before you even leave. Yeah. Or like I mentioned earlier, you need to have that financial runway in place, because you may not it may not last forever, but it will last a certain amount of time. So like I said, that 5-month span before you run out of money, and now you have to start coming up with more creative solutions. And those are your two. During that 5-month span, your main objective is to grow that business to where it's going to surpass what your 9-to-5 income was. Yeah. So that is your objective during those 5 months. For people who's wondering what happens after those 5 months, so that's the sole focus of that person that decides that they want to step away from their 9-to-5 before their business is equal, their business income net profit to their owner's comp draw is equal to their 9-to-5 income.
Yeah, and I think like this whole conversation it's not just applicable to real estate. This is just in business in general too, because
talk about the truck.
That's why I was talking. Like, bro, you want to talk about expenses? There's no bigger business that I've ever experienced no crazier business in terms of expenses than the trucking business. You think you made cash flow this month? It's okay. Let me slap this $9,000 repair.
Matter of fact, just give concrete numbers. What is the one truck gross per month in income?
On a good month, like an average month, 25,000.
25,000 gross. But now, so you said you think you cash flow?
Hey, and that, by the way, that's not to discourage anybody from getting into it. My whole thing to say is, like, you got to be putting money aside for that stuff, obviously, because they're gonna happen. Like, it's a mechanical vehicle. You think you get a lot of repairs in real estate? That is nothing to a vehicle with thousands of moving parts that weighs 80,000 pounds. So. Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. But like in business, though, in general, this kind of stuff happens. So obviously, some businesses are, if you're selling labor, then it won't be as intense.
May not be as much overhead.
Yeah.
So it is about what business you choose. But in the business world, you have to have accommodations for these things that can potentially come up.
And that's all we're trying to say is, like, are you ready? Like, you have to sit there and be honest with yourself, and before you get into any before you get into any, I can't even talk. You have to be honest with yourself before you get into any entrepreneurial venture, because just because you have the cash now doesn't mean you are necessarily ready. You need to make sure you have additional reserves and also access to some sort of credit or some sort of financing. By the way, there's nothing wrong with financing those things on credit, because it's actually honestly, my opinion, smarter to do that. Most of the repairs and things that I had in my properties, I always financed it, paid it back after I was receiving rent. Because it's just a lot easier to do that. Especially a lot of them, you get promotional, like, Lowe's, whatever, you get promotional periods where it's no interest for like 12 months. You can finance $10,000, and as long as you pay it back by that time, then you good money. So yeah, it's a very important thing that a lot of people need to think about when they're getting into business, because it can take you out of business really quickly. Just as quick as you got in, you can be out. Because I promise, when you get into real estate and you do get, man, I'm just thinking now, because like even on my other property, man, I had this summer, it had got an electrical surge. There was a storm, and one of the lightning pretty much like cooked one of the outside panels. It was like, how much to replace the entire thing? They quoted it at $14,000. It ended up being like $10,000. After I said, no, I don't want that. So it was like $10,000. Fortunately, though, I had insurance, so they covered that. But if it wasn't from a storm, because there was a storm, they covered it. If it wasn't a storm, it was something like freak accident, like something happened or the tenant did something, then that's on you.
Right.
And that's what I mean when I say it can take you out of business, because those kinds of things, just in general, those massive expenses, if you can't afford them, then you can't get nobody in your property. Then if you ended up, obviously you have to pay the mortgage now, but like, it can get tough. It can get tough to manage. So
I think one thing I love about this podcast right now is that while we always talk about the journey, we show the good, the bad, and the ugly of the reality of life. Basically, like when you get into these things, you have to know that you're ready for them, and you have to. And I think it's great to show like these concrete examples because of the fact that we're not even immune. Like people may see us and be like, oh yeah, that's them. They're the money monopolizers. They're not gonna have the same issues that somebody else is. We're very like there's no difference between what we go through versus anybody else. Everybody's going to face something when they jump into business, because that's what business is. It's about solving problems. That's like you're going to have problems that arise for yourself, for the people that you're serving, and for anybody in between. So you, as a person that's looking to go into business, you have to go ahead and take on that role of saying, I am a problem solver.
Yeah,
I solve problems for whoever is in my realm of business. If I'm in real estate, I'm solving my problems for myself as well as for my tenants. Like those are my primary people I'm taking care of. And so how do I go about doing that?
Yeah,
it's the same thing within our business ventures that we also take on as well. But it applies everywhere. 100%.
The more problems you can solve, the more people's problems you can solve, the more money you'll make, the more profitable you'll be. Because I can guarantee you, I always like to use Jeff Bezos because it's like the most known example, but there's many people. Jeff Bezos, he solved a lot of people's problems. He solved customers' problems. He solves employees' problems. He solves shareholders' problems. He solves everyone's problems at a very high level. Like all of those people have some vested interest in Jeff Bezos to solve their problems, whether that's providing them income, whether that's making sure something gets shipped to my house, whether that's making sure I get my dividends. Every quarter, then it's someone's problems that's getting solved, and he's gotten compensated for that.
That's the big piece right there. The more problems you can solve successfully, that's the person that's going to be compensated the most. Yeah. If you are solving everybody's problem and you do it consistently and successfully, you'll be compensated for it.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why you start seeing the one-way trips to tickets to Spain. Once you made it past all the problems that arose and you solved them, now you get on the back end and now you start seeing the fruits of your labor.
Yeah.
This is what it was all about in the first place. So therefore, first of all, you have to make sure you know when you're ready. And then once those things arise, be able to come up with the solutions to solve those problems. Once you weather the storm, I promise you the grass is going to be greener on the other side. Once the storm clears, once the smoke clears, you're gonna see that you are able to reap what you sowed. Basically, like you put in all the time, energy, and effort. Now you're getting a reward on the back end.
100%. I'm trying to solve more problems. I'm trying to solve more and more problems, more people's problems. So, I think that's a good conversation to have or a good conversation for people to listen to and digest, because that is something a lot of people don't think about when you're getting in. You only look at the glamour of it all.
Yeah.
But you got to keep it real. This is the entrepreneurial journey. So what we're going to do now is transition then into our next segment.
Yep.
Which will be the what's the next segment?
Listener questions.
Oh yeah. What I think what we'll do, since this is the first week, is that we will just answer some of the common questions that we've got in the past 3 years of doing this, because there's some questions that we get over and over. So I think, and then following now in the following weeks, we will answer direct questions that people send us. Mm-hmm. So if you're listening, go ahead and send us questions that you have. We'll probably do 2 or 3 on the show, and we'll answer them. Message us on Money Monopolizers and we'll answer them. So that being said, let's see. Do you have any yet?
So I'm pulling up because I know I had some in the DMs already.
Yo, I was trying to take it real slow for you so that you could pull them up. Well, let me see.
So, okay, a lot of questions have really been pertaining to like just getting started in entrepreneurship or in just investing, like because people have seen our journey, they've seen us get into real estate, they've seen us get into different businesses, and they want to emulate that. And a lot of people are just asked like, where do I begin? First off, we always start off with self-education. I think nothing has happened for us without first being knowledgeable about how to be successful in any given industry. When we came to real estate, we listened to hundreds of podcasts, not tens, not 20s, hundreds of podcast episodes in order to be well versed in the lingo, to be knowledgeable about how to spot the right deal. We had to know how much money was required, different loan options. There was so much that we needed to learn before we got started. And so I recommend that y'all find the resources, find the podcast episodes, figure out anything and everything that you can about that industry before you get started in the industry. That way, and don't also at the same time, don't experience analysis paralysis where you're doing more studying rather than taking action. So find enough information where you're comfortable. Then after that, begin to apply the information. So once you know how and where to find a deal at, start analyzing deals. Get comfortable with doing the action steps in order to get into the business. And that can be with real estate or it could be with any business venture.
Yeah, that's 100%. And I get that question, especially off of TikTok. I think TikTok has a lot of younger listeners. So I get that question a lot just in terms of like, what would you advice you would give getting started in business, real estate, all these different things. And that is always going to be the most important thing. So I'm not going to even, I think you covered that well, so I'll answer it in a different way. I think what a lot of young people should do, especially if you're in college, high school, is if you want to get into real estate, if you want to get into business, you need to find people that are where you want to be, figure out what they need, and add value to them. And then in return, you can ask them all the questions you want, as long as you're offering them something of value. Because typically what happens is we're trained to just ask, get, receive. We never want to give. And so I promise you, if you go to someone that is in a position where you want to be and you offer them something, and you can approach this how you want. I would recommend study that person, figure out their business, figure out what they're doing, and find something in where that you think you have a skill somewhere that, or you have something you could do that could improve what they're doing. If you know how to edit videos and they put out content, don't even offer. Take a piece of their content, edit it, do what you would do with it, send it to them, ask for their feedback. If they like it, they'll be more than happy to work with you and do something for you, or to mentor you, like a lot of y'all like to ask for. Which is I understand the psychology of asking for a mentor, but you got to understand what is in it for that person to mentor you. Why would they give a one-on-one to one person instead of giving it to multiple people if they're not getting anything from that relationship? I never forget when that person asked me to mentor me.
6 months free of charge to you.
Free of charge to me. That was nuts. I swear they was trolling me. But yeah, figure out what they need, offer it to them, right? Or, if you're trying to get into, a lot of people, they're trying to get into real estate, and they ask me about real estate and stuff like that. Cool. If you see someone that is in real estate that's in a position you want to be, offer to do something for them that is more of an administration task, right? Cold calling for them, doing their off-market marketing campaigns, anything like that for free. Offer yourself for free, because you gotta understand, so many people are so focused on the money. Stop being focused on the money, focus on the relationships. Like, that's the most important thing, because I promise you, focus on the relationships, the money's gonna come on the back end. It's 100% guaranteed, because those people that you helped are going to help you, because you helped selflessly up front. So that would be my advice to any young person, really anyone in general that wants to get into it. Because you got to understand, this principle is always true. You have something that they don't have, and they have something that you don't have. You most likely have the time and the hustle. They most likely have the knowledge and the money. So if you want any knowledge or you want any money, you have to offer your time and your hustle. It's that simple.
What was your
Orders up. Ding ding.
I already see that bit. That's gonna be on your page about a week from now. No, that was really good, man. Like I couldn't have said that better myself. Especially for all the young people that's out there listening, because they always feel like they may not have anything of value to add to somebody, and they's like, where can I add value at? What you got to do is that if you really want somebody to be a mentor for you, and you want to find a way to add value, study that person.
Yeah.
Figure out what this is you being an entrepreneur, and your problem to solve right now is how do I gain the attention of this person to informally or formally mentor me. That is your problem to solve. Now you have a problem objective, now you have to figure out your solution. Your solution could be studying that person, figuring out what it is that they do, watch their posts. Do you have any skill to be able to add a value to that person, like as far as to their posts, to their content, to their messaging, to their delivery method, anything that you look for all of these things. Do they need help in a particular area of their business that they may not say directly, but you're noticing that because you're studying that person? Because if somebody you want somebody to be invested in you, you have to show that you're invested in them first.
Yes.
In some sort of way, in order for them to even have that interest in you. So find a way to be able to add that value, and you have to truly be looking for ways to do so, because you want them to give you their time, but you have to find a way to put time up front in order to find a way to add value to them.
Right. 100%. Any other questions?
That's all I have for today. So
Cool.
I think that was very thorough, though.
Yeah. So, really, like I said, this show is more so to introduce the format, so that y'all can understand what we're gonna be doing moving forward, and let us know. Give us feedback on this if y'all like this. Obviously, we need to touch it up and stuff like that in terms of figuring out some of the logistics around it. But like we always say, just take action, commit first, figure out the rest later.
That's it.
So yeah. So then what we'll do then is wrap up the show with our last segment then, which will be the financial freedom action items, and then our final thoughts, which might be the same thing. So I think just in the sense of everything we talked about today, the biggest takeaway that y'all should get from this show today is to understand that, when you get into business, get into entrepreneurship, you must be prepared. And being prepared isn't just as simple as being able to buy the house or start the business. It's being able to sustain it in the times when it's early on and, things come up. Because it's not if they come up, it's when they come up. These things will happen to you, and you need to be prepared. So it's important that you have access to some sort of cash or credit. So in terms of concrete action steps that y'all could follow based off of this, I think the most important thing that you could do is, there's two things. Number one, build up some reserves. Mm-hmm. Build up some reserves, especially if you're getting into your first rental property. Obviously, be able to get your down payment closing costs. I would say build up another $5,000. At least three.
At minimum.
Yeah, at least $3,000 to be able to withstand a possible reserve or a possible expense that could come up. And then, on top of that, what you should do is also start building, get a credit card and have access to some credit. Because worst case scenario, you should at least be able to get it fixed with the credit card.
Yeah.
So don't just be sitting there and not having anything. Don't have no cash and don't have no credit. Have something. So preferably like a credit card that has a promotional period, in which it's 12 months, no interest. There's so many cards like that. Chase, Capital One, even if it's a store card like Lowe's, Home Depot. Mm-hmm. Yeah, something like that. If you have that, you'll be able to withstand any possible first time expense. Unless, this is just God telling you wasn't meant to do this then. No, I'm playing.
No, my philosophy, it has to work or it has to work.
Right,
but,
facts.
My financial freedom action for this case is going to be one of my favorite concepts is reverse engineering your goal.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be the entire long-term goal, but it can be getting into that first house. It could be starting that business. The primary things you need to understand is what is it going to cost you, especially if you're trying to leave your 9-to-5 in this case, because that's kind of where the premise of the conversation came from, is when you're exiting your 9-to-5 to go into your entrepreneurship journey, you need to reverse engineer what does it take to get there. And so that's going to be, what does your monthly expenses look like? You need to figure out what that is, because you need to know how much money you need to have saved up to live off of for X amount of months. And plus, you need to add in your reserves. So, how much reserves do you want for this business? Like Alex mentioned earlier, he said $3,000 to $5,000. That's external from the normal living expenses. Because if those reserves get used up, now my financial runway has shortened from 5 months to 2 months.
Yeah.
And that's why those are separate line items. So you need to have all these things saved up independently. And then you also need to know how your business is going to be able to support you once that 5-month period is up. So you need to be brainstorming before you make that exit of, what is my plan of action to get to this destination before that 5-month period is over with? Like, how do I know I'm going to be able to be that this is going to be sustainable for that amount of time, within this amount of time?
100. Yeah. So yeah, man, I think with that, it's very hard to fail. If you apply both of those things, or all of those things, it's very, very hard to fail. So, wrapping up the show, then, I guess man. Final thoughts, man. That's pretty much what we just said.
Yeah, no, I'm done, man.
So, man, that's I hope y'all understand what we just said. Take that in and apply it, man. And I think the most important thing to say, and I think this is something that I try to always am cognizant of, is knowing and not doing is the same thing as not knowing. So it doesn't do you no good to listen to this and not apply it. Listen to this and take action. But yeah, man, that is it for this episode of the Money Monopolizers podcast. New episodes will be released every Thursday and will be available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Yo, just search Money Monopolizers wherever you listen to podcasts. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, we'd appreciate if you rated us 5 stars and left us a review on Apple Podcasts. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter. Hit us up anywhere. We're on Twitter at the Monopolizers, IG at Money Monopolizers. We post informative content on there that'll keep you engaged. So be sure to check that out and share those posts. But until then, we'll see you next.
Whatever that was. Until then, we out of here.
Yeah, I think so.
You've been listening to the Money Monopolizers podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. To learn more about how you can be in control of your money, visit moneymonopolizers.com. We'll catch you next time when Alex and Marlon share more personal finance and wealth creation tips with you. Now it's time to take action.